Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning at Southminster Steinhauer United Church, where we are spiritual seekers united in community. Wherever you're joining us from this morning, we welcome you. Whether you're in your home here in the Edmonton area or in Saskatoon, in Kelowna or Toronto or Fredericton or Black Point or Edinburgh, Scotland. Wherever you are in the sanctuary of this moment, welcome to this time in which we are gathered with one another. So wherever you are and whoever you are, whatever your age or stage, your gender identity, your sexual orientation, your beliefs, your race, your language, your ethnicity, welcome to this online gathering where we create spiritual community with one another. We will sing and pray and meditate and seek wisdom from poets and writers. We will lean into what it is we need for the living of these days. If you're joining us on Facebook this morning, let us know where you are and how you are. Take a moment to comment. And I invite each of us to take a moment just now to honor the legacy of the land on which we are gathered, the land where you find yourself. A moment to acknowledge its story and its first peoples. Those of us who find ourselves in the Edmonton or Saskatoon area honor the ancient lands of Cree and Métis people, a generous land that has become home to so many migrants of many generations, and all of us, partners in Treaty 6. Gathered in this space with me this morning is Chris, my teammate, who's on the piano today, our music makers, Deb and Jim, who are leading us in song, Catherine on bass guitar, and Noah and Brett, who are helping us with our technology this morning as we connect with one another online. I invite you to take your candle in the place where you are and join me as we each light our candles. Right where you are. This is a time to settle our minds and center ourselves. As you focus on your flame, we each remember that life is born of light, a great flaring forth almost 14 billion years ago. We welcome the light that births this new day, light that has traveled deep through time and space to meet our eyes, centering on the flame before us. We open to the mystery of fire, the mystery of being, the miracle of life. We bring our attention to the dance of the flame, vulnerable to the movement of air in the room, flickering with strength and fragility, possessed of the capacity to give heat and light, the power to help or to harm. We breathe with our flame. In and out, remembering that we are creatures of light, born of light and ever seeking it, fragile and strong, vulnerable to all that is around us, with our capacities to help or to harm. In this moment, we sit quietly, take a deep breath, acknowledge our apprehension and our uncertainty, alongside our gratitude and our hope. And we hold our many feelings with a soft and open heart. We imagine the light that we have each lit in this moment, and we see ourselves as part of something greater. Generations of survivors in the vast constellations of history and the story of life. And we remember, we know how to do this. We know how to be a lamp in the darkness, where some will hoard, we will help. When some are overwhelmed, we will be kind. And when we are anxious, we will reach for a match and we will sing.
I want you all to meet Millie. Millie's going to help me with today's Time for All Ages. We're going to talk about the ability to be soft and strong. It's a talent that we can all work on. Well, Millie doesn't have to work on it, but she'll help us learn to use this superpower. Soft and strong seems like opposite things, but they're not. Lots of things that seem like opposites aren't opposites. Soft and strong, good or bad, busy or bored, they can both happen at the same time. So, Millie is an example of a soft and strong thing, right, Millie? She's gentle, and she has the softest, fluffiest white fur that you've ever felt. There's other examples too, like water. Water is so gentle when we put it in a warm bath or when we drink it from a glass. Well, Millie drinks from a bowl, she says, not a glass. Oh, snow. It feels so soft when it floats down from the sky and melts on your tongue or on your tail. Soft doesn't mean weak. Imagine water when there's lots of it all at once. Powerful. Think of snow when it gets all pushed into a big snowbank. It's strong enough to climb. And let me tell you about Millie. When we go for a walk, oh, I said the magic words, this gentle doggy is so strong that she can pull us wherever she wants to go. Now let's think about the ways that we treat each other. Soft and strong go together there too. When we're loving and compassionate, considerate and supportive, we're not weak. And it doesn't mean people can bully us or that we'll never get our way. And when we're strong, it doesn't mean we're rude or uncaring or that we hurt others. We can be kind, loving, supportive, compassionate, fierce, loyal, inviting, successful, all at the same time. Soft and strong. You can be both. You already are both. We can practice being soft and strong together. It's an amazing superpower. Let's try it.
Good morning. A poem this morning by Richard Hendrick, an Irish Franciscan. It was penned on March 13th, 2020. Lockdown. Yes, there is fear. Yes, there is isolation. Yes, there is panic buying. Yes, there is sickness. Yes, there is even death. But they say that in Wuhan, after so many years of noise, you can hear the birds sing again. They say that after just a few weeks of quiet, the sky is no longer thick with fumes, but blue and gray and clear. They say that in the streets of Assisi, people are singing to each other across the empty squares, keeping their windows open so that those who are alone may hear the sounds of family around them. They say that a hotel in the west of Ireland is offering free meals and delivery to the housebound. Today, a young woman I know is busy spreading flyers with her number throughout the neighborhood so that the elders may have someone to call on. Today, churches, synagogues, mosques, and temples are preparing to welcome and shelter the homeless, the sick, the weary. All over the world, people are slowing down and reflecting. All over the world, People are looking at their neighbors in a new way. All over the world, people are waking up to a new reality, to how big we really are, to how little control we really have, to what really matters, to love. So we pray and we remember that, yes, there is fear, but there does not have to be hate. Yes, there is isolation, but there does not have to be loneliness. Yes, there is panic buying, but there does not have to be meanness. Yes, there is sickness, but there does not have to be disease of the soul. Yes, there is even death, but there can always be a rebirth of love. Wake to the choices you make as to how to live now. Today, breathe. Listen behind the factory noises of your panic. The birds are singing. The sky is clearing. Spring is coming. And we are always encompassed by love. So open the windows of your soul, and though you may not be able to touch across the empty square, sing. In the words of this contemporary poet, may we find wisdom for our living.
This is a reading entitled Instructions by Sherry Hostetler. Give up the world. Give up self.
Finally, give up God. Find God in rhododendrons and rocks, passers-by, your cat. Pair your beliefs, your absolutes. Make it simple. Make it clean. No carry-on luggage allowed. Examine all you have with a loving and critical eye. Then throw away some more. Repeat. Repeat. Keep this and only this. What your heart beats loudly for. What feels heavy and full in your gut. There will only be one or two things you will keep, and they will fit lightly in your pocket. In this contemporary poet, may we find wisdom for our living.
We've come to one of those places in life where the only thing that is certain is that nothing is certain. It's a hard place to visit, and it's an even harder place to live. Maybe uncertainty has always been our permanent address. But we're often able to take up residence in life in ways that allow us to keep from remembering that that's where we truly live. I've had the luxury in life of feeling certain securities, having a safe and loving home, with more than enough to eat and opportunities out of the reach of the imagination of so many. So when life goes along in its smooth path, it's easy to settle in and begin to feel safe and comfortable. If you're anything like me, you can become absorbed in the tasks of the day, giving yourself over to the to-do list and the anticipation and pleasures of planning for the things we want to do someday, until something pierces the cellophane of safety, and exposes us to the air of our great vulnerability. It might be a diagnosis. It might be a natural disaster. It might be an act of inhumanity. It might be the death of someone we love. It might be the loss of employment or the end of a relationship. It might be something beautiful that takes your breath away and then it's gone. It might be a virus that only a few short weeks ago seemed like such a distant threat. On our recent road trip, traveling through the mountains in winter, we watched carefully for those signs that would tell us something about the conditions of the road up ahead, whether it was good winter driving conditions or icy patches, drive with care. I kept watching for those neon road signs that would either reassure me or would prepare me in my longing for some certainty, some way of knowing something about the road ahead. I realized I sometimes wish that life came with signage, just like those signs we see on the highway. Wouldn't it be helpful sometimes to see a flashing light in life that warns us there's an important intersection ahead? It might give us time to prepare for the decisions we're going to have to make. Or if a sign said, slow down, like it does in school and playground zones, we might pay attention to things that we easily miss if we don't gear down or put on our brakes. Or if we were cautioned about the sharp curves ahead, we might take some precautions and be more careful in navigating what's coming. Or we might be a bit more patient with one another if we could read those no passing signs that are posted at the bottom of a hill or yield to oncoming traffic. But the thing is, if there were signs posted on the road through life, they'd all be obscured by the one that would litter our path because it says, vulnerability ahead. That's the truth of life. And it's not just ahead, it's here. It's the nature of being alive. If we're breathing, we're vulnerable. We're vulnerable to hope and despair, to sorrow and to joy, to love and to fear. We're vulnerable to acceptance and rejection, to health and to disease, to being understood and being misunderstood, to being welcomed or shunned, vulnerable to being alive or dead. Since 9/11, the Western world has become obsessed with security. Most of the developing world has always known security is an illusion. Life is about vulnerability. We're always at risk and challenged to learn to live with vulnerability. It's a great irony that it takes practice to be vulnerable. It's like saying it takes practice to breathe. In one sense, it's a ridiculous assertion. We just breathe. We are just vulnerable. On the other hand, it's a spiritual practice to be vulnerable. And there are countless teachers of vulnerability. Some of our teachers are found in myths and legends and folk tales. The characters our imaginations have created to help us navigate the dark forest, or the land of Oz, or the dragons, or the giants of our experience. I'm thinking of the characters in a story the Judeo-Christian tradition taught so many of us as children. Once upon a time, as the story goes, there was a giant. Goliath stood nearly 10 feet tall in his stocking feet, probably wore a size 20 collar and a 52-inch belt. And when he put his armor on, he not only looked like a Sherman tank, but he weighed in like one too. I don't know a thing about football, but I think every team would pay big bucks to sign this guy. But in the world of the ancient story, he wasn't a lineman. He was the best thing the Philistine army had going for it. And it had the enemy on the other side of the valley, right where they wanted them, paralyzed with fear. They were like grasshoppers under the giant's feet. Until along came a shepherd boy, fresh from the farm. David had been sent on an errand by his father to deliver a care package to his older brothers. They were soldiers on that fear-filled side of the valley. Instead of dropping his cookies and heading for the barn, he took down the giant with one of the smooth stones he had in his pocket. Yes, there is fear. Yes, there is isolation. Yes, there is panic buying. Yes, there is sickness. Yes, there is even death, just as Brother Richard Hendricks has written. Yes, there is great vulnerability. There is deep uncertainty. And yet, we have at least 5 smooth stones in our pocket. We have courage, for one. Witness the courage of those who go to work every day to bring the best of their knowledge and their skill and their humanity to do what they can do for strangers, for patients, for clients, for customers, for consumers, for passengers, for their valued cargo, for the vulnerable creatures with whom they share this planet. We have courage. And we have compassion. We see it every day. Medical students in our city organizing to deliver groceries to some of the most vulnerable among us. Neighbors we never knew, who wave and speak to one another and ask, "How are you doing?" And they really want to know. Or a nurse who knocks on the door of a neighbor in her condo, offering to do her laundry. We have compassion. And we have creativity. actors, singers, composers, writers, artists, all putting their work online. We are gifted every day with the grace of creativity coming out of isolation, like members of the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra and the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra, playing a piece of music together created virtually by each artist, playing their instruments from the isolation of their own homes. We have creativity. And we have connection. We know this as a time when connection matters greatly. We can keep one another safe by physical distancing, and we must also keep one another safe with the social connection tools that are available to us even in our isolation. Even the very low-tech tools of standing on a sidewalk, talking to your neighbor who's standing in their doorstep, or dropping off a note of care into someone's mailbox. We have connection. And we have choice. We can hoard, or we can share. We can panic, or we can be patient. We can trust, or we can be afraid. Remember the wisdom of Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor, who said those famous words we have needed to hear so many times. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. In that space, that sacred space we hold one another, in that safe space of physical distancing we give one another, in that space is choice. In the space between hopefulness and fear, there is choice. In the space of each moment, there is choice. We've given up many things in this pandemic, but there will be one or two things you will keep, and they will fit lightly in your pocket, just as the poet reminded us. These stones are not weapons, they're tools. Valuable tools for living in this time. Tools that help us live more deeply. Tools that open us to the vulnerability in the midst of great uncertainty. We each have smooth stones in our possession. They're our best tools for confronting our giants of anxiety and depression. Social distancing, self-isolation, quarantine, illness, grief can take many things from us, but they cannot deprive us of our smooth stones. The archetypal story of our tradition put 5 of them in David's pocket. We are each finding the ones tucked into the corners of our pockets like coins we didn't know we had. We'd forgotten they were there. So I invite you, in this coming week, I invite you to share with us in a Zoom conversation tomorrow at 3, or anytime by email or voicemail. Tell us about the smooth stones you are polishing in this beautiful and fragile time. Whenever we gather, it's an opportunity to strengthen our intentions, to live more intentionally, faithfully, truthfully, with integrity, with love and compassion, to live the values we cherish. And so we take these moments with one another, together to offer these words as our prayer, a way of strengthening our intention for living in this time. We pray together. Honoring distance, we nurture connection. Amid fears, we foster courage. Embracing restrictions, we seek to be creative. In the midst of limitations, we choose what is life-giving. Though isolated, we are not alone. We commit to conversations. We commit to sustaining relationships. We commit to caring for ourselves and each other. We commit to sharing the smooth stones we each hold. May we lean into the goodness and beauty of life. May we take the connections we feel in this shared experience and invite others into that hopefulness. May an outbreak of health and hope spread all around us. May it be so. We know that energy can never be created or lost. It only changes form. And so as we extinguish this light, we welcome its new form of energy. And we go from this time we have shared with one another to live our vulnerability, using the smooth stones we polish with our intention. We go in peace and love, in health and hopefulness. Thank you for being with us today. Although we are not gathering in order to keep one another safe, we are grateful for all the ways you continue to support us. We invite your support in whatever way you are able to offer it. You can make donations online anytime at our website. You can drop off check or cash to the church office on Tuesdays or Thursdays between the hours of 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. You can drop a check in the mail to SSUC at the address you'll find on our website or you see on the screen before you. We are deeply grateful for those of you who are able to continue your support on pre-authorized remittances. It helps us greatly in this time. We look forward to ways to connect with one another. We invite you to give your thought to the question we posed a few moments ago, and to join us in the conversation tomorrow at 3 o'clock. You will find on the screen in just a moment the link you need. Come to our webpage and join us in a conversation on Zoom that we can share together about the smooth stones we are polishing that enable us to live in this fragile and beautiful time. So join us tomorrow and join us again next week as we gather with one another in this way.